just form a fucking wall.
O'Neal deep in the post, lots of contact there. Oh, what a block by Wallace! What a jump ball!
Pistons down 4, 12-8, 7:38 to play in the first. A burst from Rodney, stuck into the rim. Count that baby and a foul. Reggie inside for Andre and a dynamite dunk.
Pistons fans, hello and welcome to another edition of the Palace of Pistons Podcast. Brendan Johnson, Aaron Johnson, Ryan Paye, all here with you again this week for another great episode of the Palace of Pistons Podcast. And boys, we're cruising through September. We're getting closer and closer to the beginning of training camp. But what's the good word, fellas? What's going on?
Dude,
how are we doing?
Pistons news has been slow, especially this week, but it's good to be
ISO
back.
Joe was like an isolated story, isolated news for the Pistons.
Yeah, it's been ISO Joe, and ever since then, it's just kind of been quiet. I mean, on Thursday, the Pistons officially announced that they signed Joe Johnson. It's a non-guaranteed contract, but he has guarantee dates in October, and then I think the other one's in January. So, and we talked about Joe Johnson a good enough amount last week. We're all kind of on the same consensus of that he's going to make the roster. But we got a really fun topic this week that I'm excited to delve into.
Yeah, I mean, it's slow, boys. Slow on the basketball front. Other things are going great. Football, I love football, and football's been fantastic.
Yeah, football's been okay. Unless if you're a Michigan State fan, you might want to jump off a bridge. But other than that,
I'm not the one who said it. But I mean, in terms of basketball, it's been slow. But in general, I'm doing well, fellas. Glad to be here. So let's get it going.
Good. Well, Aaron, he came up with this idea, and he's like, hey, let's do something different for the pod this week, and kind of look into the Pistons roster. And something we talked about last week a lot was, who's going to be the odd man out, what direction are the Pistons going to go, and that's centered around the Joe Johnson signing. We decided this week we wanted to go through and take the 16 players that are in the mix for the Pistons right now. And this doesn't necessarily mean, like number 16 will be the odd man out. But we wanted to take them 1 through 16, do a little ranking system. I'm interested to see. I'm not going to lie. I expect our rankings to be semi-similar, right? I think the first couple, the number 1, number 2 on the list, I'm sure they're going to be similar. I'm sure 16, 15, 14, maybe a minor discrepancy, but they're going to be the same 3 names. Where it gets interesting is in the middle and how we rate these guys. So I'm interested to have some conversation with that. Aaron, this was kind of your idea. This is your little baby here for the pod. I'm going to kind of toss this your way to intro this and lead this and, the way that you imagined it.
Yeah, so first off, we'll see how long it takes until someone takes this ideas from us and does it themselves, because that's been a popular thing lately. But the guys that are not included in this are mainly the guys going to training camp on non-guaranteed deals or two-way contracts outside of Joe Johnson and Christian Wood. Those 2 guys will be included because those are the 2 guys that will actually have a chance to make a roster. So, Jordan Bone, Lewis King, Todd Withers, those kind of guys are not included in this. They're not being factored into this, but it's the guys on guaranteed contracts and then the 2 guys that are going to training camp for the battle for the final spot in Joe Johnson and Christian Wood. But we're gonna start off ranking them from worst to best, and just to be nice. Worst doesn't mean they're bad. It just means in terms of their
value
talent on the roster, their value and importance to the roster. 16 is the worst spot. 1 is the best spot.
There's no good way to describe this. Like, hey, in terms of value and importance, you are ranked the worst.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I mean, still, if you're the 16th, 15th best player on an NBA roster, you're still destroying literally the large majority of the world, the other 99% of people in the world in a basketball game. So no disrespect meant to any of these guys. But we'll start off with number 16. And Ryan, I'll go with you first.
Oh, wow, thanks. At 16, I know Brendan said maybe it's not the odd man out, and it wasn't necessarily my thinking about it. But I'm going Langston Galloway. I think he is going to end up being an odd man out. So Langston, I don't see honestly really any value with the team. Like you said, there's no disrespect to these guys when we're doing this, but I just don't see how he fits in at all. There's really no value brought to the team. For me, I think it's a no-brainer that he's kind of the cut list.
Okay.
I like that. I mean, I have a different player, but I kind of like your reasoning for that, Brendan.
Oh, I think Ryan just showed right there with his number 16th rank that he's going to be the one adding some spice here to the list.
I told you guys my list is going to be a little different, I think.
Ryan's list is going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. To me, it's Kyrie Thomas. Why? We saw Kyrie in Summer League. He didn't impress. Kyrie is... we talked about him as maybe he's a backup point guard option. Kind of showed he's not. You look at Kyrie as a two-man. Well, we've got several two-men on the roster, including two in the similar age range, Luke Kennard, Bruce Brown. Kyrie, if we're talking value, if we're talking importance, you have two young shooting guards that are both better than him. You don't need a third in the same age range because one's going to have to go. And to me, in terms of just the value and what he can give you, he's proven he can really only play one position because his secondary spot probably be point guard, and that doesn't seem to be a great fit for him. So he's limited to really being a two guard. You have enough of those already. Kyrie, for me, becomes the least valuable. And is that kind of how we're going to define this list? Is this is least valuable, or are we going to go off of just like what's the official?
I went off valuable. That's how I put mine together.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, and
that's the worst player. I mean, in terms of value to the team.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get at. Because there might be a couple guys that in today's present moment, in terms of just if you broke down their basketball skill, Kyrie might not be number 16. In terms of value to the team, to me, he's number 16.
I mean, we're not going in terms of like potential. So if you're saying Bruce Brown's at 4 because you think he has this sky high potential, that's not how we're doing. We're basing it off of right now. I mean, you can factor.
We're basing it off of value.
Yes, value for like the upcoming season.
Got it. Just making sure because that's you said that's how you made your list. That's how I did mine as well. And Aaron, I'll turn it back your way.
Yeah, so I have Kyrie Thomas as well at 16. I mean, Brendan, you pretty much laid out the same reasoning that I would have. He's just at that bottom of the list because he's the most unproven player on the roster. Bruce Brown has gotten his fair share. I think Svi, maybe he hasn't gotten as many game reps as Kyrie Thomas, even though Thomas's were so limited as well. But Svi just has kind of shown more, whether it be in the G League or most recently in Summer League. And there's just more hype around a guy like Mihailuk, just given he's 6'8", and Kyrie Thomas a little bit smaller, really is only a 2 at 6'5". Svi's that guy that, could play the 1, 2, or 3 ideally in his best apex. Again, we're not basing it off of potential or anything, but in terms of value for next year, Kyrie Thomas just plays at the deepest position on the roster for Detroit, and he's just not, he's not as good as the rest of the guys on the roster. But that'll move us to 15, and it'll be interesting to see, now where we're all at.
We already have a little dissension.
Brennan's already changing up his lineup sheet. So we'll see where this goes. I guess since Brennan's making a change, Ryan, we're going to start back with you.
Yeah, all right. Well, 15 for me, I had Kyrie Thomas. So right there with everything you guys said, I mean, there's really nothing more I can really add to it. Young guy who didn't really fit the bill in the Summer League. There's a logjam at the position. Someone's going to be the odd man out in terms of playing time, and we've discussed that at length over the summer in the pod. Since Summer League, and I think Kyrie's going to be that guy. So at 15, I have Kyrie Thomas.
So, I'm going to look at 15, and 15's interesting, right? Because we talk about value. The problem when I broke this list down, and my guy is Christian Wood, okay? The Pistons have a necessity, though, for another big man on the roster. Right, and we talked about that last week on the podcast, and I don't want to, just sound like I'm an old man repeating myself here. So I'm not going to go through all of that again. But Christian Wood is still unproven at a consistent rate in the NBA. Yes, he had a nice little stint there last year, but he has not done it consistently. We have not seen a proven Christian Wood yet in the NBA. Therefore, A guy that, he's right now, he's borderline going into camp. He's battling a 38-year-old Joe Johnson who was playing in the Big Three. So that right there alone tells me that, Christian Wood, as there is a necessity for a big man on the roster. He's not proven he could do it at the NBA level. I put him at number 15 on the value sheet.
Yeah, I got Joe Johnson simply because I think in terms of talent right now, he's 15th on the roster. He just, again, plays on the wing. The Pistons have a lot of other wings on the roster that they can go with. It's going to be tough for him to beat out some of these other guys that I think are just better right now, whether they're younger, they're more athletic. The funny thing is, I think he's the 15th. I have him 15th, but I still think he has a chance to play over some of the guys that I have ahead of him, which is kind of weird to me. But at the same time, I just think in terms of how good he is, he's 15th on the roster. But I guess we'll move on out to 14. I went with Ryan the first two times. Let's swing it to Brendan for his 14.
All right, so at 14, I'm going to take a look at this, and I've kind of, as we've been sitting here, just having some other thoughts and looking at how we're breaking down this list, and I'm going to go with another unproven guy at number 14. That's Svi Mihaly, right?
Wow.
I'm putting Svi at 14. Why? Svi is some value. Svi could probably play in 2 to 3 spots on the floor. But again, another guy that we have not seen consistently do it or really prove himself at the NBA level. Svi's a replaceable guy. I'm sorry, he's a replaceable wing. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's got some potential, but we're not basing this list off potential. We're basing this list off of the current value. Svi's a guy we talk a lot about. We haven't seen much from. That's kind of how that's the bland answer to the breakdown of my thought there, right? A guy that he has some upside. If we were breaking down a potential sheet, maybe Svi wouldn't be at 14, but in terms of the current value and what we're looking at this year for the Pistons, yeah, I don't know where Svi slides in terms of the depth chart. I don't think he cracks the two-man, the top 10 rather, right, first and second unit. So
we'll see about this.
I guess I put Svi at 14.
Ryan, you got Svi that low too?
At 14, I have Sekou Doumbouya. Sekou is a rookie, youngest player in the league, and what's his face? Bill Stefanski
Stefanski.
Bill
there you
Stefanski.
go.
I'm a mess, dude. It's late. Ed Stefanski.
Ryan had his card hacked into today.
Yeah, I just had my credit card stolen, so I'm a little preoccupied. But Ed Stefanski straight up said he's not playing this year unless he just absolutely shows out and goes crazy. And that seems to ring true with Dwayne Casey as well. So in terms of value for this year, Sekou's value is rather low.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I have a differing thought, but I'll save it for when Sekou makes his appearance on my list.
Sekou is not gonna, with how raw he was in that summer league, if that is where he's at right now, which there's flashes of brilliance, but if that's where he's at, he's not beating out guys who are established or guys who are on their come up.
Okay.
He's not this year. Next year, not this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I at 14 I got Christian Wood. The Pistons need a big man. I think Wood can play it, but like I talked about last week, I don't know how much Detroit really trusts him or believes that he's the guy for that roster spot. It kind of goes along with how they signed Joe Johnson, and again, we talked about that too, so I'm not going to go into that too much. I think Christian Wood is better than that, but I also kind of took into factor how much I think the Pistons believe in each player, and that's why I have Wood at 14. I think he's good. I think he can be a valuable player. If I thought the Pistons had felt the same, I probably would have bumped him up 2, maybe even 3 or 4 spots. But because of how the offseason has went since he's been signed and how the Pistons have signed Beasley and then they signed Joe Johnson, it just doesn't show that they have a ton of confidence in him. So I have him at 14 on my list. But we'll move on to 13. And I'm going to go first just because we just kind of talked about him. And I don't want to bring him back into the fold with the same kind of feelings as Ryan, but it's Sekou. I have Sekou at 13 on my list. Ed Stefanski talked about it. Unless he's really able to contribute on defense and has made some growth on the offensive side of the floor. It's just going to be tough for him to get into the mix this year. I think he's that guy that if there's an injury on the wing, the 3 or the 4, there's a chance that he's that injury replacement, and that's where you get to see him. And then if he contributes and he looks good, that's awesome. But, I'm not putting money on him being in the opening night rotation. So, therefore, I got to have him pretty low on this list at 13.
Yeah, so at 13, I have Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson, just a little bit outside the rotation looking in. Kind of what you said with Sekou. If a guy goes down, Joe Johnson's going to be the one to step in, I feel.
Yeah.
At that 2-3 spot. I really feel he has some value in the fact that he's a leadership guy, Brendan.
Thank you for introducing that. I'll let you finish your point, though.
He's a guy who could put up a couple points off the bench for you. He's a savvy vet, but he's not going to see a ton of time. He's on the outside looking in right now. So 13, I think, is a good, fair spot for Joe Johnson, in my opinion.
Ryan, I agree with you 100%. You could see that you and I maybe have a slight bit more appreciation for ISO Joe than the young buck here because he did not, sit in the bottom 3 on either of our lists. Listen, ISO Joe is going to have a value, as I've said before, as a locker room guy. A guy that's going to come in knowing that there may be opportunities for him to get some minutes here and there, whether it's in an injury replacement role, whether it's in, maybe a night where you're resting some guys. He's not going to expect consistent minutes. He's going to be prepared to, just kind of play the fill minutes and to help mold some young guys in the locker room. So for me, Joe Johnson can give you a little bit of value on the court. He can give you more value in the locker room in terms of just mentorship. 13's a fair spot because his role will still be on court, will be limited enough that I don't think I could justify putting him much higher. Could I put him at 12? Maybe, but I don't think I could have gone much higher than that. I think 13's a pretty fair spot for Joe Johnson. And how about I just take it into 12, right? And if that covers the point.
Yeah.
I sit Tim Frazier at number 12. Tim Frazier, the third point guard, behind Reggie Jackson, behind Derrick Rose. And guys, I think the Pistons are going to be an interesting spot with, what they do with some of their guard rotation. You could still see Bruce Brown slide in and get some point guard minutes. And, we all remember Aaron and how he was after Summer League, Bruce Brown. I'm, rubbing his arm right now because, I could just feel the goosebumps up Aaron's arm. So he thinks
goosebumps, baby,
playing point guard. But Bruce is going to have an opportunity to play at some different spots. We'll get into him later. But with that being said, Tim Frazier is the third point guard. You need a third point guard. But that's about all I could say. We'll see.
I had Tim Frazier at 12. I ended up making a late swap with Langston Galloway. I have Langston at 12.
Okay.
And I know Ryan had him at 15. You haven't named Langston yet, Brendan.
I have not.
16.
Yet.
Or 16.
Be right.
16.
Yeah.
I have him on my cut
He had
line.
Kyrie at 15.
I have him on my cut line.
He had Kyrie at 15. Come on, pay attention.
So, some difference there. And I have some more thoughts on Langston coming out soon on the Palace of Pistons YouTube page. So if you have not checked that out, make sure you go over and subscribe because that video will be dropping soon. But just in terms of value, I don't think that Langston Galloway is going to bring much to the team.
That's interesting because I have such a different take on Langston. I'm excited when we get to him
number
on my
3,
list.
Langston Galloway. Okay, Brendan. Maybe you're done doing the podcast.
Ooh. We almost recorded this without Brendan, so we'll see if it was the right decision to give Brendan enough time to get back
My philosophy on the situation is different. But Ryan, you're number 12.
No. I want to finish.
I'm going
to give a few more thoughts on Langston. So, just my feeling is he was very inconsistent last season and was given a very long-term opportunity. He played in 80 games. He was given the opportunity to set himself in, find his groove, and perform, and he shot sub 40% from the field and sub 40% or sub 36% from the three-point line. And his best attribute and his known attribute is he can score the basketball and he can shoot the basketball. And he did not do that efficiently last year. There is all the reason in the world for every other wing on the roster, whether it be Kyrie Thomas or Joe Johnson or Sekou Doumbouya or Svi Mykhailiuk or anyone else, to be given an opportunity over Langston Galloway. And maybe that means I should have Galloway at 16 on my list, but I still think he has value. And I think maybe if you put him on a different team with just some better overall players around him, he would thrive a little bit more. But he just wasn't that good last year. And I just don't see why he should be given the opportunity to play 80 more games and play as big of a role as he did last year this year.
All right, so I said before we did this that there would probably be a little dissension. And at the time, my guy I have at 12, I originally had at 8. But then I rethought it because of certain things that are going on within the organization. So at number 12, I have Christian Wood.
Okay.
Originally had him at 8. You're right when you say the Pistons don't seem to believe a whole lot in him by they're making all these moves while he's on a non-guaranteed deal. And that's what ultimately swayed my opinion in my mind going back and forth when setting up this list. The reason I had him so high initially, but now I've dropped him down to 12, is because, yes, it's a small sample size in the NBA, but he was putting up 17 and 9 and looking good doing it. Whereas a guy like Thon really hasn't done that at all.
You would not see Thon put up 17 and 9.
And the Pistons are in desperate need of a backup center. And who is their backup center right now? Thon Maker. So it was tough because of G League and NBA are two totally different things. But Christian Wood in the G League was like 29 and 15 or whatever. And then the smaller sample size in the NBA, 17 and 9. So it seems like, maybe this guy can play a little bit. He's young, he's springy, he's energetic, he's got touch around the rim, he can put the ball in. So I think there's value there. And if he can prove himself in training camp and earn his way onto the team, which, of course, that means someone's going to have to get traded or cut, his value will shoot up. And he'll eventually work his way into the rotation, I feel. So right now I have him at 12. I originally put him at 8 because I felt like him as the backup center potentially was of utmost importance to this team because they don't have one really right now. They have a bunch of backup 4 men to go alongside Andre Drummond. So it's the curious case of the backup center position right now. So number 12, Christian Wood.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks Christian Wood is going to be or can be a good player.
I think there's something there.
I really think so.
Like I said, I had him at 8.
Yeah, I
haven't said 8.
I haven't said there isn't. To me, he's just it's still unproven. Yes, he's done it.
Absolutely.
But it's unproven. But I do think he's got some serious upside.
Well, I'll take 11 because, it's probably my turn to go first.
Let's do it. 11,
Svi Mykhailiuk.
Okay.
This is kind of I think he'll be in the rotation type of guy. Those 15 minutes a game. His shooting on the wing is going to be of utmost importance in that second unit, and his ability to possibly defend 1 through 4 is also going to be of the utmost importance in that second unit. And he showed the ability to maybe be a little bit of a playmaker. I don't think that's really going to be his role, but if it comes down to it, he's going to be able to make a few plays. But that shooting is going to be so important for that second unit, and that's why I have Svi at 11.
Yeah, so I'll go here with my 11. I have Tim Frazier. I kind of underestimated the potential and the likeliness that Derrick Rose will see some minutes at the 2, just because he's kind of started doing that more and more over the last few years. So I think Tim Frazier's going to get some minutes throughout the year. I think it's going to be, 1, because there will be injuries to Reggie Jackson and Derrick Rose, and 2, I think he's a good enough player. Tim Frazier's kind of one of those guys that will never be, an elite, or he'll probably never be a starter in the NBA. But I just think he's shown that he just belongs on a roster, and maybe he'll never be an 81 game, an 82 game guy, over the course of a full year. But when he gets in, he's going to contribute, and he's going to be pretty solid. So I still think he brings some certain value to the Pistons. And, for a team that has 2 point guards that have a very bleak injury history, it's nice to have a guy like Frazier on the roster because I think he has some value and he can contribute. He's a really good distributor. He runs an offense well. He's an improving 3-point shooter, and he has experience in the league. He's bounced around, but he's played with a lot of different guys, and he's been in different situations. So he has value, and he can bring something to this team, and you'll see that throughout the year.
Well, number 11 for me, this is where Sekou hits my list, right? You guys have Sekou a little bit lower. Here's why I ranked him higher. When I look at value to the team, there still has to be a spark plug guy. There has to be that guy that you look forward to seeing, the guy that the guys in the locker room will want to see get an opportunity, will get excited when they do something well, will maybe rally around a little bit. I think Sekou's going to be that guy. I know Ed Stefanski maybe has made some comments that would indicate Sekou, will not find himself in the rotation, may not get a ton of time, but I'm going to be frank here. You still invested a first-round pick on the guy. He's going to get some sort of opportunity. And I think him at 11, he still is athletic. He still can run the floor. And we'll see what he can do in terms of half-court offense and half-court defense. But the spark, the energy, the rallying point of his teammates, and what he's going to do for the fan base as well, to me, gives him a little extra value than sitting him at 12, 13, 14. Not the top 10, but a guy that I think has some increased value, and it will get more time than maybe we're expecting him to get going into the preseason. That's why I had him a little bit higher.
So moving on to 10, I'll go first. I got Thon Maker. Just don't know how improved Maker will be next season. You look at the offseason videos, which he's been prominently featured in, and he's been working out a lot, which is great, but you expect that from an NBA player. The big thing we talked about going into the offseason was he needs to improve his hands, he needs to put on some muscle, he needs to put on some weight. And throughout the videos, Maker does not really appear to have put on much arm strength, much arm weight, and some muscle mass, whatever you want to call it. And it also, in some of the drills, you still see him bobbling the basketball in his hands, and those two things are going to keep him from being a valuable NBA player. And I mean that. There's no way to dance around that. And when you're a center, you cannot be sized up like a twig, and you got to be able to hold on to the basketball. And Maker doesn't look like he beefed up, and he's still bobbling the ball in these drills where he's going up against a hitting dummy or he's going up against a 5-foot trainer. So I just can't believe that the stuff that he's doing has improved him that much. And this is scary because you need a backup center on your roster, and I don't know if Thon is going to be good enough to do that. But he's going to have to play, and he's going to have to provide some value when you look at how the rest of this roster is made up. So he still has to make my top 10.
Sure. Well, that's kind of how I feel, right? I have Thon at number 10 as well. And to be quite honest, my faith in Thon is so little. And I won't lie, I really wanted to put him lower on my list. But, and by lower, I mean like a higher number. He would have already been said. But bottom line is, you still have the necessity for a backup center. And Thon has proven that he's going to be, at least at the beginning of the year, Thon is going to be the number 2 center on the roster. He can play the 4, he can play the 5, and I don't know how excited you get because it really doesn't get me. It doesn't really move the needle for me thinking about, oh, great, Thon's my backup center. But you still need him. Has to crack the top 10 value just because he's going to be a rotational guy, and you need him to be able to provide something.
Fair enough. At number 10, boys, I have Markieff Morris.
Okay.
He's your backup to Blake Griffin. He's important coming off the bench, but in terms of guys who I have ahead of him on this list, the importance is as dramatic. Blake's going to play his minutes. This allows Blake to get some rest now throughout the season. instead of having to play 74 games and risk hurting himself. So in that respect, he's valuable, but I don't know, the guys I have ahead of him, for me, mean more to the team and the position they're in. I mean, Markeef's going to put up his 10, 11 points, if that, a game. He's going to be tough. He's going to add toughness off the bench. He's going to grab some boards. It's going to be a nice addition for the Pistons. So he's in the middle range for me for value.
Sure. So does that mean you have Thon sitting at number 9?
At 9, I have Thon.
Okay. Fair
He's your
enough.
backup center right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'd hope you're back. You're
he's your
number
backup
2
center
in the
right
top
now.
10.
So, and backup center is a wildly important spot, as we saw last year with this Pistons team. A very important spot.
Right.
We had Zaza last year playing backup center, and things did not go well that often.
Sure.
All right? So now Thon's in that backup role. So now maybe this one isn't value per se. This is importance. This one's like need for me.
Right.
He has to show he has some value and some worth, and that he has, even though maybe his body doesn't show it, he's gained some strength during the offseason, and he's gotten better at finishing at the rim and taking defenders off the dribble a little bit. Not that he needs to do a ton of that, but anytime he tried to do anything last season, it just seemed to step slow. He seemed clumsy. So maybe we'll see how he developed. So I have him at 9 because he's rather important, because he's your backup center this year, as it looks right now.
So we're going on to our 8th player named, and so far we have not had all of us matching. We've had 2 of us matching, but not all 3 of us have had.
Wait, hold on. Did you guys name your 9s and I was spaced
No.
out trying to do my
But
stuff?
we've already named Thon at 10.
Oh.
So I'm just saying we're going on our 8th guy, and you've named it. We haven't yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys.
But we have
I'm
not.
still trying to deal with the stolen credit card thing over here, guys.
Oh, all good.
So
all good.
mid-pod, I'm trying to do this. I'm sorry.
Ryan's freezing his card, and we're still talking hoops. It's all good, though, right? I'm going to chime in here at 9 because, Aaron and Ryan have both named this guy. I sit Langston Galloway at 9, and here is why. I'm a firm believer the Pistons are going to make a move of some sort, right? I believe that move could also include a guy like Reggie Jackson. Langston Galloway is an expiring deal, and he gives you some money to play with, where if you go after a guy who's on a little more of a lucrative deal, and you put Galloway's expiring contract in there, that beefs up the kind of player you can go after or players you can go after. I also think that even though there are younger guys that maybe should get in the mix, with the potential of him, with Langston that is, being a trade bait type of player, I expect to see Langston get some minutes. I don't expect him to be at the end of the bench not playing. I expect Langston to be in the mix because I expect Langston to eventually be traded. Therefore, with his contract being something that we can use to our benefit, and the fact that I think he is going to be in the rotation, I think he'll be in the rotation over Svi. We can get into that later. But
And we'll be getting into that soon, actually.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I have a full philosophical agreement with it. That's just where I stand at this point. But I would put Langston's value that high because I think he can turn into something greater, and he can help us, get a good return in a move for Reggie Jackson, or even a couple positional guys if you want to make a turn for an upgrade at a wing or whatever. So that's why Langston ranks so high to me. I don't know if we were talking just his basketball, I don't know if he'd be higher than some of these guys. We're talking potentially, certainly wouldn't. We're talking value and what he can provide. I sit him at number 9.
So Ryan had Langston at 16. I had Langston at 12. You have Langston at 9. Pretty drastic differences. Yeah. My 9 is Svi Mykhailiuk. I think that Svi is pretty much a lock for the rotation at this point. He's going to play the backup 3 minutes. It really looks like that, unless the Pistons are much more faithful in Joe Johnson than everyone seems to think. But I don't think that you're signing a 38-year-old in the middle of September to immediately come in and play 15 to 20 minutes a night. Svi just looks like he's ready to contribute to an NBA team. He has the shot, he has the handle. Maybe wasn't the best distributor in summer league, but I think in a secondary hereditary role as a playmaker, he can succeed. And he'll be on the court with guys that move the ball well. Bruce Brown, Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, those kind of guys. Svi will fit in that regard, but he looks ready to just play and play meaningful minutes and they really be a positive on the court. Just looks like he's going to be able to score from inside and out. He can get to the cup. Obviously has that insane range that the Pistons really will need. They'll need that kind of shooting, especially in the second unit, and Svi's there to provide that. So I know that I have him higher than you guys. I have him really high compared to you, Brent. You had him at 14. I had him at 9. But I think this is, Svi's a guy that's going to come on this year, and he's going to contribute more than I think, it seems like a lot of people are expecting.
Fair enough. And again, I think Svi's a guy that maybe, I'm certain he could. I just really got a gut feeling Langston early on is going to get some minutes over him and to put him in a better position to be traded. I think they're going to set Langston up to really boost his value to move him. I'm a firm believer of that. So, because that's a contract that Langston's not going to give you enough on the court to get the value of that contract, right? You might as well use him in a move to really maximize his value. So, I guess that's where I stand, but looks like we're moving on to number 8. And do we have any volunteers who want me to go? Aaron, you make the call here.
I can go first on this one. I got Markieff Morris. Ryan had him at 10. I got him at 8. Brennan, you haven't said him yet. But I got Markieff because I think if he's able to stay healthy this year, he's going to be a pretty valuable player in the second unit. I know last year he just could not stay healthy and he did not have a good season. That's why the Pistons got him on a pretty friendly contract, even though they had to give him the player option for next year. But if Morris is healthy, he's going to contribute to this team. And, as a bench unit scorer, a rebounder, a veteran, that bad boy kind of attitude that we saw with his brother Marcus that the fans in Detroit really appreciated and liked. I think as long as he can stay healthy, which, is a question with a lot of these guys on the Pistons roster, but he can be a nice piece for this team. And it's some insurance for Blake Griffin, who played 74 games last year, logged 30 plus minutes a night, had the highest usage on the team. It's just some insurance that if there's a night where you want to rest Blake, you're not having to play Thon and Henry Ellenson. You're able to play Markieff Morris, who, if healthy, is definitely better than both those guys.
Well, Ryan, when you were talking about Markieff, why you had him at 10, I think you made more of my point for why I have him at 8. He gives Blake an opportunity to rest. He also gives Blake an opportunity that if he needs to slide to the 5, let's say Thon gets hurt, Thon's not, providing. Let's say Christian Wood gets cut, and the backup option is to slide Blake to the 5 and to run Markieff at the 4. And whether that puts V in a position to run some small ball 4, maybe that puts Sekou in a position to run small ball 4. You figure some things out. Maybe 4 is the position of the future for Sekou. But I think Markieff's going to provide some value in giving Blake some flexibility, allowing him to rest, allowing him to move around. He's also going to just be needed on that second unit as a post presence if Thon's out there and not at maybe a high enough level as he needs to be or should be. So Aaron kind of painted the rest of the picture, but I think I'm excited about what Markieff can do for that second unit for the Pistons.
All right, at 8. You hit on this earlier, but at the same time, I think you guys are missing the point here with how valuable he truly will be to this team, even if he's not fully in the rotation, and that is Tim Frazier. We saw... Okay, back up.
Wow.
Reggie or Derrick Rose are going to miss some games this year. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Don't let Derrick Rose stretching videos on Twitter fool you into thinking he's going to play 78 games this year. Either he or Reggie are going to miss some time due to injury. And we saw last year when the Pistons have to go to that third point guard, if that third point guard, is not up to par, it will literally lose the team games. Tim Frazier is not Jose Calderon. He can run an offense. He's got some speed. He's got the ability offensively to finish, to score, to pass. He is of the utmost importance on this team. Yes, he might not play every night. Maybe he's not a rotational guy. But when it eventually does happen, or if, let's say, Bruce gets hurt, something like that, Luke gets hurt, Derrick Rose is going to slide to the 2. He has been playing more 2. That means Tim Frazier is going to find his way into the lineup. And when you don't have Jose Calderon playing your third point guard, it's a beautiful thing.
Sure.
Those are good points.
Injury bug bites this team.
100%.
Especially our 1 and 2 point guards right now that we currently have. History and careers have proven it. Tim Frazier is of the utmost importance. He almost should be higher on this list, but with the way things are with some of the guys, you really can't have him higher. Also figured it out. Got my card canceled, boys, so we're okay. I know you were all stressing about that. I was trying to. It took so long because I was trying to get some of those transaction canceled as well. But of course, like I said, it's got to wait till it posts, which is annoying. But hey, at least the card's canceled now.
Good.
Jackasses.
Oh.
Stealing cards.
Well, it's
You losers.
What?
Losers.
It's one of those things, like, we were talking about it, you know, it's just more annoying than anything. Like, fortunately, there wasn't a major expense that hit your account. It was a minor expense. You saw it. You get your card canceled. But it's just such an annoying hassle. And now, it's so many people are aware so much quicker if you're going out and messing with their card.
Right.
Like, maybe you pull off a $42 purchase. Glad you got your whatever in some other state, you know, or online, whatever. Congratulations, you got, you know, $40. But, like, dang, it's just so annoying to deal with.
Yeah, this is annoying. And now I'm going to have to call the credit card company, dispute this charge, because I guarantee for some reason it's just going to not let me do it online, because that's how my life works. You know, these things are supposed to be handled online. But anyway, I know you guys out there were really worried about it, so I just wanted to keep you updated and informed that maybe this is the top priority of the podcast, that I was able to get my card canceled and reissued.
Amen.
So thank goodness. But anyway, back to the Pistons, the secondary topic.
Yeah, this is
today's
these rankings are the B story. Ryan's credit card's the A story of today's show. But we'll move on to 7, and I guess I'll go first. I got Bruce Brown at 7.
Wow, you have him low.
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew you were gonna say that, but you know, I just look at the guys that I have ahead of him, and I just think they all have all of them have a bigger role offensively than Bruce Brown, and defensively, Bruce is good. You know, he certainly is, and I think that there's obviously potential for Bruce to have a big year this year, but at the same time, it's more so that I think the guys I have ahead of him are more important than I think Bruce is not good enough. I just think the guys ahead of him mean more right now. And still at 7, Bruce is going to play a big role. He still could start.
We've passed the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Pretty much 8, maybe 7 and above are where like the value is. So
yeah.
It's not like you're not valuing him.
Right.
He's still going to play a big role on this team, no doubt about it. These guys that I have ahead of him, and they're all the big names you would guess, and then, a few stragglers, but Bruce is good. He's still got a long way to go. These guys ahead of him have all proven themselves, and that's why he has to stay at 7. That's not an indictment on him either. 7 is still a good spot for him, considering that this was a second-round pick that's now going into a sophomore season, and people did not have super high expectations for him.
All right, at 7, I have Tony Snell. He's going to be your starting 3 most likely, so the value is there. You're gonna need a longer, bigger wing in your starting rotation, and you get that. Is he the most important player? No. He's not going to put up the most points. He's not going to grab the most rebounds, but he's going to be a solid shooter. What you need, the length on the wing to defend. He can get to the rim a little bit. And it's kind of what they're looking at. It's an upgrade on the wing in the starting lineup for them. Mm-hmm. So the value's there, but it's not of the utmost importance, but it's definitely addressing a need they had.
Here's the thing, Ryan. Here's where we're on the same page. As he has some importance, and yes, it's an upgrade on the wing. He is your most replaceable starter, right?
Absolutely.
He's your most replaceable starter, and that Bruce or Luke could start at the 2 for that matter, or 3 or whatever, right? he's your most replaceable starter. And I think that will be the position where the Pistons will look to make an upgrade if it's not at the starting point guard spot. So I'm with you. I have Tony Snell at 7. Again, he's in the value category. Don't get me wrong. But, I think that defensively, Bruce is equally as good as Tony Snell, if not better. And yes, Tony is a little more proven offensively, but if Bruce is going to start on this team, then he's going to have to show that he can be not a liability on the offensive end. And if he's a liability on the offensive end, well, then the conversation changes. And while we're talking about Bruce, let me just transition into 6, because that's where I have Bruce on my list. So
let's just share it, because that's where I have him too.
So
we're on the same page.
Ryan and I are clicking right now. We're on the same page. We'll see how long that lasts. But at the end of the day, Bruce is either going to be your starting 2 or he's going to be your backup 2, right? And he's going to provide a role of, if he starts, probably guarding, he's probably guarding the best wing on the other team. If they have an elite point guard, maybe he's guarding an elite point guard on the other team, right? So he's going to have a very important defensive responsibility, and Bruce is going to have to be able to provide something on the offensive end. Doesn't have to be a leading scorer, doesn't have to be a major scoring threat, but he cannot be standing wide open in the corner and not willing to shoot the basketball. I don't think he'll do that again this year. But Bruce is a young guard. Bruce is a guy that has a lot of, has a high ceiling. The Pistons invested in him as a starter last year, right? And he's also proven he can fit in with that starting unit if put in that position. So I think the value is there for Bruce because he's going to play an important guard spot. Also, the reason I have him above Tony Snell, Bruce can slide in and play some point guard if he has to as well. Right, you get some more flexibility out of Bruce. You could slide him to the 3. You could really, not an ideal world, but if you ran a 4-guard lineup, Bruce could play a small ball 4 depending what the opposition.
Brennan is going deep into some theories right now.
Deep cuts right now.
I got flack for saying Bruce Brown could be the backup point guard of the team, weeks ago, and Brennan's out here making his case for Bruce Brown to play the 4.
Good Lord.
Jeez.
All I'm saying is,
goodness,
you have more flexibility.
It is September, folks.
Hey.
Hit the season here.
Listen, sorry, some of us,
Tim Frazier, Kyrie Thomas, Langston Galloway, and Bruce Brown, your 4-guard lineup per Brendan.
Sekou at the 5, yes. Brendan's dream.
My goodness.
What you just did right there, Aaron, was it was just irresponsible where you went with that podcast, because that's garbage.
Oh, my goodness.
I've made good points.
All right, anyway.
We're on the same page, Ryan.
We're on the same. Outside the small ball 4 thing, I won't connect with that, but he said everything I would have said. So
yeah, I got Snell at 6. The thing is with Snell, the more I watch,
you're just wrong. That's okay.
Right. But the more I watch Snell, the more I like him. It's just a hand and glove fit, bigger size at the wing, which is what the Pistons needed. A 6'7", shoots 40% from the 3-point line, finishes inside. He's going to have nice chemistry with Blake Griffin. Mike Snyder of Detroit Bad Boys tweeted out some clips on Thursday of some of the 2-man action that Snell and Giannis ran. Really, he pointed out how it's similar to what Blake and Reggie Bullock ran. And I think, Snell's kind of going to have that kind of 2-man chemistry with Blake this upcoming season. It's just a good fit, and I like Snell more and more the more I watch him. But we'll move on to 5. I got Luke Kennard. The guy I think should be the starting shooting guard. I'm expecting big things from Luke. If all goes right, I'll look silly for putting him as low as 5, and he'll be more like the 3 or 4 in terms of value. But I have him at 5 right now just because the players ahead of him have earned that much respect and have had a more successful time on the court than Kennard has. But there's no reason that he cannot improve in that sense, and he's due for a big season. He showed it last year. Things started to click for him, and he's ready for a bigger role. The Pistons are going to entrust him with some greater opportunity, whether he's in that starting lineup or he's leading the second unit. And I'm excited to see what it means for Luke. I think some good things are coming for him.
At 5, I have Derrick Rose. For me, it was a toss-up 4 and 5 with him. I kept him at 5. He'll be the point guard for the backup unit, obviously. The leader of the backup unit. He's going to be of the utmost importance for the second unit. Really excited to watch him play. Excited to see if he still has some of those flashes that he showed in Minnesota, or is he on the downturn? But we're supposed to view this, the Pistons view this as an upgrade to their point guard position.
Right.
For their backup spot. And if that's the case, because they felt that was maybe something that held them back slightly from being an even better team last year, then, well, let's see.
Right. Ryan, we stay on the same page.
We stay on par.
Derrick Rose is going to be important to the second unit. He's going to have an opportunity, if injuries occur, to start a point guard. And the reason that, to me, he's not ahead of Luke Kennard is because as much as I love Rose and as much as I have campaigned for my belief that he'll be a good fit in Detroit, you still have to have some concern with injury, right? And, I guess more so it's not even against Rose. The reason, and I'm just going to transition into 4, maybe we're on the same page with 4 at Luke Kennard. That's where at least I have Luke. The reason I went Luke at 4 instead of 5 is Luke's going to have an important role, whether he is in the starting lineup, because now he's in the starting lineup and he's going to be that kick out 3, catch the ball in space, maybe even get a couple drives to the basket, keep the defense honest kind of guy. If he's in the second unit, he's going to be the primary wing scorer. He's going to have a very important role, maybe equally if not more important than the role Derrick Rose will have in the second unit of play. So for me, with the value that Luke provides to whichever rotation he's in, starters or he's in the second spot, he's going to provide, a very high value, and they are going to need him to produce. So that's why, I guess we'll go to you for 4 to see if we're on the same page still, or maybe Luke's a little higher.
We're not on the same page.
Ooh, okay.
Reggie Jackson at 4. A healthy Reggie is important to this team. We've seen what a healthy Reggie can do for this team. It just adds an extra spark, an extra explosiveness, extra dynamic to this team. They're going to need scoring out of that point guard position. Him and Blake like to play a little two-man game as well. They need to solidify that starting spot, and they're rolling into the season with Reggie Jackson. So at 4, gentlemen, Reggie.
Aaron?
That's interesting. I like it.
Okay.
I mean, we know where you're going with 3 now. But at 4,
I think 1 and 2 are givens. I don't know if we have to go over 1
I don't
and
think
2.
so.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny that after all of my supposed Derrick Rose hate, I have him ranked highest out of the 3 of us. I have him at 4. He wasn't great last year, like some people are saying. And these stretching videos on the internet, although some do believe it means he's having an MVP season next year, that is not the case. But he's still going to play a big role on this team. And Rose's scoring ability is going to be very nice to have. I think you're going to see that come into play where last year, yes, Ish Smith could score the ball pretty well for backup point guard, but Derrick Rose is on a whole nother level in that area. So he's certainly going to help the team. You'll see him out there in crunch time situations probably as well. And he's just that guy that he'll make an impact. The more that this offseason goes on, the more I've kind of talked myself into Rose having more value to the team and bringing that value. I still don't love it. I'm not going to come out here and lie to you, but I think he's going to be pretty good still. But we'll see. It's funny, though, I had Rose higher than both of you guys.
That is pretty funny considering how Brendan and I were not, leading the Rose train or anything, but we're like, oh, that's not a bad signing, whereas you were ready to start your, New York Knicks podcast and blog and all that stuff. So, New York Knicks,
you're not wrong.
Who knows? I mean, maybe I'm not wrong. I know you're an RJ Barrett guy. No, you're not. I don't know what you are outside the Pistons. But anyway, let's just hop into 3.
Well,
did you go 4? You haven't gone, have you?
No, for 4. I transitioned into 4 with Luke. I want to go to you.
Oh, yeah.
You have
3.
at 3
Luke Kennard. I have Blake Griffin. No, that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy if
you guys just don't understand how good Luke's going to be this year.
No, at 3, Luke Kennard. This team desperately needs a strong wing presence. And that falls on the shoulders this year of Luke Kennard. I'm not saying he needs to go be a superstar, all-star level this year, but he needs to put up 15, 16, 17, 18 a game. Mm-hmm. He has to. He's going to be their main shooter on the wing. That is going to be one of his top priorities as a player. He's going to have to be a playmaker for this team. He has, not to put all the pressure on the young man, but there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's everything this team's been missing over the last decade on the wing, he needs to be this year and the next year and going forward. I mean, he is of the I've said the utmost importance a couple times, but so it's kind of killing the term, but he truly is of the utmost importance to this team. We saw it last year in the playoffs. How important this guy can be and how good he can be for this team. If he wasn't there in the playoffs, the Pistons were embarrassed last year for the most part in the playoffs. I mean, outside Blake played, and Blake was awesome, and obviously that's just a given. But when Blake wasn't there, the best player on the court was essentially Luke Kennard. And he showed he belonged and how important he is at keeping the team alive and in the game.
Right.
Every facet of his game has to be what the Pistons have needed on the wing, essentially. He's not going to be some superstar, all-star, Kevin Durant-style, Giannis-style player or anything like that because he's only 6'6". But what he can contribute and how he has to contribute this year to this team to be successful, to win games in the first round, and to advance past the first round, I think you can say it falls on Reggie Jackson on top of Blake and Andre. I think it falls on Luke Kennard.
Fair enough.
You need a strong wing presence. You do. And who's that strong wing presence, fellas? If it's not Luke. Tony Snell? Sorry. I like Tony Snell. It's not Tony Snell. It's not Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown's going to play some good defense. He's not going to put up more than 3 points a game. It's not Kyrie Thomas. It's not Svi. It's not Sekou. Okay, if it's not Luke, then there's no wing presence.
Sure.
There's none. And the Pistons are back to being a 41-41 team.
Give me just an hour of Ryan talking about Luke Kennard. Just give me an hour of it. That's all I want. Next week, Ryan's doing a solo show talking about
on
Luke
the
Kennard.
Merits of Luke Kennard and how important he is.
Yeah.
I think, Ryan, you made a lot of great points right there. You really did. There's a big reason, though, why I put Reggie Jackson at 3 instead of Luke. And I don't think anything you said is wrong. And I think you could very fairly, justly put Luke Kennard at 3. But obviously, I think we all have Blake 1, Andre 2, right? I think a good Reggie Jackson elevates the play of both of those guys, but especially Andre Drummond. The pick-and-roll game makes a difference. Reggie hitting some threes to space the floor makes a difference. Can
I stop you right there for a second? If Reggie goes down, Derrick Rose can back him up and play almost at that level. If Luke Kennard goes down, nobody can back him up.
Well, as that's not false, Luke Kennard may already only be the second-string shooting guard.
He's going to play over 30 minutes a game, even if he's coming off the bench.
I don't know.
He's going to get 30-plus minutes.
You think
he's going to get 31, 32, 33 minutes.
If he's coming off the bench,
they're not going to place Bruce Brown over him if he's showing his offensive prowess.
I think they're
not.
That's if, though. That's if. I'll give you if he is, but that's if.
Buddy, it doesn't matter. I know I'm right on this. I'm 100% right on
I think he's getting 25 to 28 minutes.
I don't think so. I think he's getting more.
I look at how many wings Detroit has on the roster, and
Tony Snell and Bruce Brown can fight for those minutes. Luke's not the guy you're doing that to.
Luke is the best wing, but you got to play Snell. You got to play Bruce. There's going to be Svi. There's still Langston on the roster, and whether we rank Langston high or not, he's going to probably compete for minutes.
If we're playing 12-man rotations, just be a 30-win team.
I'm not saying that.
I know you're not, but you're saying all these guys have to get minutes? No, they don't. This isn't 5th grade basketball. Prove your merits. Dwayne Casey, I know he likes to go deep. I know he likes his deep lineups. Dwayne Casey, cut it off. 9 men, 10 men. Don't go 11, 12 deep. Don't do it. But anyway, back to Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard.
I think the thing is, though, if Reggie... sticking with Luke, I don't disagree that Luke could get 31, 32 minutes a night. But if he's coming off the bench, that means to me it shows that his offensive. What was your terminology? However you define it, but if Luke is giving that much on the offensive end, Luke is going to be in the starting lineup.
I honestly,
Okay.
my thought process is I expect him to be in the starting lineup.
And that's fine. And if he's in the starting lineup, then that's fair. If he's in the second unit and he is not as big, maybe he's okay offensively, but he's not as good as maybe we're hoping, expecting, however you want to label that, I'm kind of with Aaron. He's a 25 to 28 minute a night guy. He's not a 31-32. Because whether it's Bruce, whether it is a different wing, whether it's running Rose out there at the 2 with Reggie for a little bit, right? I think they could go with a few different looks. Going back to why I had Reggie above Luke, though, the Pistons, when they've been at their best since they've had both Reggie and Andre on the team, as much as I've had issues with the style and play of Reggie Jackson over the years, when Reggie and Andre are clicking, the Pistons have had some success, right? And you just have to look at wins, losses. It's a fact. When Reggie and Andre are healthy and clicking together, they have success. Is it high-level championship success? No, it's not. But it's still successful enough to win some games, and it could be successful enough to not only get in the playoffs, but win a playoff series, right? And the other thing is, I'm going to go back to a point I made earlier about Langston Galloway. I still seriously think Reggie Jackson and Langston Galloway could be paired in a trade. And I think you need Reggie to play at a decent rate. Doesn't have to be all-star amazing, but he can't be bad. If Reggie is having an average to above average season, and you get Langston Galloway in the mix enough to show he's got some worth, you can package those two together, whether it includes picks, whatever else they have to add in to spice the deal to turn into maybe that wing that replaces Tony Snell. And then Derrick Rose can slide in to play the starting point guard spot. And then your point about Tim Frazier really comes true with his value as backup point guard. And then all of a sudden, or maybe it goes, hey, the Pistons move Bruce to backup point guard. They've got some more wing depth. Now they've got guys on, maybe Svi slides in as the backup too. That's how they utilize their young wings. I'm just saying, I think with, again, that opportunity to maybe move Reggie and either upgrade at point guard or upgrade on the wing, there's something there.
I'll say this. I don't think a package of Reggie and Langston are really fetching you a whole lot unless you sweeten the deal with a fair number of picks. I don't think I get the expiring contract thing and all that stuff. I still don't think you're getting quite the upgrade you're looking for at the wing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have Reggie at 3-2. Just one more thought on Rose. Certainly a very important player. I think he should start. I think he should command a lot of shots. I think he should be,
Wait, you said going back to Rose.
Did I say Rose? I meant Luke.
You said Rose.
I'm sorry. I meant to say Luke.
I was about to say, whoa, this is going off the rails right
wait
now.
a minute. Hold the F on. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Going back to Kennard, certainly will have a big role. I think he should start. I think he should get, top 3 in shot attempts per game. I don't think he's going to play 30 minutes per game. I think he's going to play closer to 25 to 28. Just looking at the minute distribution last year, Blake and Andre were the only guys to play over 30 minutes per game. Wayne Ellington played about 28. Reggie played about 28. Bruce didn't play 30. Those other guys that started never, they didn't play 30 minutes per game. But either way, 25 or 30 minutes, Luke Kennard needs to have a ginormous role on this team. He should be starting. I just have Reggie Jackson at 3 because, for the reasons Brendan said, when Jackson's on the floor, the Pistons are a very good team when he's healthy. And he was good in the playoffs last year. He elevates the play of, Drummond most definitely. He helps with Blake too. But when Jackson was healthy last year and he kind of got in his stride in the second half of the season, he was a really good player, and that continued to show in the playoffs. And you got to think a healthy offseason in his bag now. You should see the same
in his bag.
Oh. You should see that same kind of level of play.
in his bag.
I'll say this, because we need to wrap this up. Because, wow, we took this one real far.
Yes, we did.
I can't believe how long we're going.
The same.
I'll just say this. Injuries are a problem with this team. It just seems to be our luck every year. And if Reggie were to go down, you have backup in Derrick Rose, and then you have a guy in Tim Frazier who can step in, and the team is not necessarily falling off a cliff like it did last year. I expect Luke to be able to put up 15 this year. I think that's a fair expectation to have of him because he's going to get the shots. If Luke goes down, there's nobody to replace him. And that's where I find the value in him being higher than Reggie.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, for number 2, we all got Dre. I mean, explaining, I guess, just, his importance is
everything he does.
The defensive anchor.
I think it's very
rebounder.
It's self-explanatory.
And then
1 and 2.
Yeah, and then Blake, obviously the team's best player. Really not a question there. Coming off a huge season, the leader,
70 strong.
Yeah, leader on the court, leader off the court, and just an absolutely dominant player. But it's funny because Brendan walks in before we record and he's like, "This is all you want to talk about?
We're gonna get us 10 minutes.
We're gonna need 2 more topics at least." And here we are, an hour plus deep. This is the longest podcast
we've ever done.
A month or 2.
It's an off-season pod, and it's the longest one we've ever done.
Yeah, and Brendan's like, I think we're gonna need a few more topics. So get out of here, Brendan.
All right. Well,
we're here to
since
talk
Aaron's got to be a total ass, I was going to get off the pod, or maybe even at the end of the pod, give him some credit. I'm certainly not, but I can be mature, and I can admit when I am wrong. I was wrong. We got through a lot longer than I thought we would on this topic. We had a little more difference in our list than I thought we would. So, because Aaron had to be whatever, I'm not giving props. But I'll admit I was wrong.
It's okay, Brendan.
I'm able to do that.
You were wrong about this topic not being long enough, and you were wrong with your list. You're a lot of wrong tonight. It's okay.
I don't know about that.
It's okay.
I don't know about that.
We still have you on the podcast every week. You just help Ryan and I look good.
Yeah, I make the podcast. You talk about my freaking value. I'm number 1.
Oh yeah. All right. Hey,
end the pod.
Let's do
That's it.
Podcast rankings now.
Yeah, Aaron came in at number 4. Well, thank you very much for tuning in this week to our episode of the Palace of Pistons podcast. Of course, before you go, like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Palace of Pistons. We're on Instagram at Palace Pistons. Facebook page. Check us out on YouTube. The YouTube's growing. That's been awesome. Some good video content. Of course, Tim Forkin's done a lot of great work for us on YouTube. So be sure to support his stuff. Of course, the website as well. A lot of great staff writers. They do a lot of great things. Great articles, great pieces, player breakdowns, roundtables, predictions, breaking news, the whole 9 yards. Check out the site, palaceofpistons.com, the socials, the YouTube, the entire bit. So, before you go as well, Aaron's on Twitter at AJohnsonNBA, Ryan at Ryan Paye, myself at Media Brendan. Throw us a follow, like, rate, review, do what you got to do, and we will see you next week on the Palace of Pistons podcast.